Matthew and Mark both say he actually says these words. Luke just gives what he's saying, not that he's actually saying it. 4, he had one daughter about 12 years of age, and she lay a-dying. She lay a-dying? That's weird. Yeah, but I like how Matthew and Mark say it. He's actually saying this, saying, my daughter is even now dead. But come and lay your hand upon her, and she shall live. Mark, and besought him greatly, saying, my daughter lies at the point of death. Why don't they agree? I pray you come and lay your hands on her, that she may be healed, and she shall live. Okay, the point of death. What is the point of death? That could be death. You've approached death, and you've reached the point, and now you're dead. Maybe Mark is saying she's dead. My little daughter lies at the point of death. Now, it seems from my point of view, English reader, that she's just about to die. Lay your hands on her that she may be healed, and she shall live. Matthew says, but come and lay your hand upon her, and she shall live. So they both say she will live. So the woman comes up to him. She gets healed. While he had spoke, there came from the ruler of the synagogue's house, which said, your daughter is dead. Why trouble you the master any further? Okay, so she must have been alive. My daughter is even now dead. But it can't be that way, because Mark clearly says they came up to him on the way over, saying, your daughter is dead. Why trouble you the master any further? Or maybe she had been dead from the beginning. The father had lots of faith and thought that Jesus could raise her from the dead, but the rest of his family didn't think so. So when he's bringing Jesus back, they're like, why bother? She's dead. You know she's dead. Leave Jesus alone. Let him go about his business. That's a very unbelieving, whoever this certain is. The synagogue's house, certain which said. What does Luke say? And while he had spoke, there comes one from the ruler of the synagogue's house, saying to him, your daughter is dead, trouble not the master. But when Jesus heard it, he answered, saying, fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole. That still doesn't really answer the question of, was the daughter dead at the beginning when the ruler came to get Jesus? Matthew clearly said she's dead. Luke, for he had only one daughter, about 12 years old, she lay a-dying. She's not dead. She's dying. But as he went, the people thronged him, and a woman having an issue of blood approached him. She's healed. Then they come up to him after that. Your daughter is dead. Trouble not the master. But when Jesus heard it, he answered, saying, fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole, because she died at that point. Okay, so it's really between Matthew and Luke now. Matthew clearly said, my daughter is even now dead. Luke clearly says she lay dying. And then someone comes up to him on the way saying, your daughter is dead, trouble not the master. In Matthew, Jesus came into the ruler's house, saw the minstrels. The story about someone coming up and telling them that the daughter was dead is not in Matthew. So that kind of gets rid of that contradiction if it's not in Matthew. I could see it either way. Your daughter is dead. 12 years of age, and she lay a-dying. My daughter lies at the point of death. She lies at the point of death. That is the most ambiguous. This is a really difficult contradiction between what was written in Matthew and what was written in Luke. Luke wasn't there. Matthew was there. And Peter was there. And Mark was an associate of Peter who wrote the Gospel of Mark. If Matthew was there, that makes sense that I would go with what he says. That this man came up to them, because Matthew would have been there, and heard this guy say, my daughter is dead. In Matthew, it doesn't mention while they were on the way to heal the ruler's daughter that other people came up to them and said, your daughter is dead. It is mentioned in Mark and Luke, so we know it happened, and therefore we know at that point his daughter definitely was dead, whether they were informing him for the first time or just out of annoyance and unbelief telling him, just stop, your faith is pointless, stop bothering Jesus. But because it's not mentioned in Matthew, that might actually be the answer to the problem here, that since at that point it was clear that the daughter was dead, and yet they still finished their journey to go to the daughter, perhaps Matthew just, again, summarized, put the important points in the story, that the daughter's dead, and her father went and got Jesus to come and heal her, and Jesus did raise her from the dead. So maybe that's why Matthew put it, that the father said, my daughter's dead. Maybe that wasn't actually what he said. Maybe he went to get Jesus, and when Jesus arrived, he rose her from the dead. So it's just as good as if she had been dead the whole time, because Jesus still went and healed her. I'm not sure, but it is interesting that that event of the people coming up to him before he actually arrived and said, your daughter's dead, trouble not him, is not mentioned in Matthew. As you can tell, I prefer to go by context clues instead of looking up words based in their original Greek or Hebrew. I never intended in retranslating any words for this work because I'm not a Hebrew scholar. All I wanted to do was put verses together, and I didn't expect to run into such a contradiction like this. So I'm okay with using Bible Hub to look at the original Greek, which I did. I don't want to do that often because if I do it once, I might as well do it every time. Every single word that I'm not sure about, I would feel obligated to look at what the original meaning was, what are the other possible usages of the word in Greek, or if it's in Matthew. There have been ancient Hebrew manuscripts of Matthew found. I might have to look up the Hebrew. And I don't want to do that because that is beyond my education. But because this is such an impossible contradiction, I looked it up anyway. So this word in Matthew 9:18, my daughter is dead. That word dead, Strong's number 5053, teleutao in Greek, Strong's number 5053, and it could mean dead, it could mean died, or it could mean dying. So it is an option. The word in Mark 5:23, my little daughter lies at the point of death. All those words, at the point of death, or possibly just the point of death, is Strong's number 2079, which means extremely, utterly, to be at the extremity, point of death, which is what they used here, or to be at the last grasp. So it would seem to mean that, as Mark has it, she's not dead yet. She is dying. Luke 8:42, she lay a-dying. That word a-dying is Strong's number 599, meaning to die. I am dying, am about to die, or wither, or decay. It's pretty much exactly what it says in Luke. Dying. So Mark and Luke are pretty clear, about to die, and the word in Matthew could mean dying. It was used here in the King James Version to say dead. My daughter is dead, but because Matthew doesn't include this interaction of other people coming to him and saying your daughter is dead, it seems to miss the possible further explanation, at least in Matthew, of whether or not she was already dead or was only dying. Something else that led me to believe dying is the correct word instead of just dead is that in Mark and Luke, when the other people come to them and say, "Your daughter is dead, why trouble you the master any further?" This is Jesus' response. As soon as Jesus heard the word that was spoken, he said to the ruler of the synagogue, her father, meaning he had just received the news that she's dead, he said to him, "Be not afraid, only believe." Luke has it sort of similar, where the people say, "Your daughter is dead, trouble not the master." When Jesus heard it, he answered him, saying, "Fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole." So in Luke, as far, it doesn't say that Jesus is responding to the Father, it just says he's answered. So it could be to the guy who's sending the message, or it could just be his general response to both of them, the crowd, the group of people that are all with them. Mark is absolutely clear. He's speaking to the daughter's father, saying, "Be not afraid," which would lead one to believe that he didn't already know that she was dead, that he was attempting to bring Jesus back as a last-ditch effort to keep her alive, but now that he heard that she is actually dead, that he is probably overcome with grief and sorrow and disappointment that he wasn't fast enough. Jesus didn't get there quick enough, and that's why Jesus said, "Don't be afraid. Fear not, she shall be made whole." Mark just says, "Be not afraid, only believe." But I'll say both. Fear not, believe only, and she shall be made whole. I'll put that last part in. She shall be made whole. It's as if Jesus is trying to keep him from breaking down, because he just heard that, and it was the sum of his fears. So it makes perfect sense, based on the story that is expanded in Mark and Luke, that he didn't know she had died, and when he came to Jesus, she wasn't already dead. So for all those reasons, I am going to go with the word from Luke, dying instead of dead. And I think I'll also add in there the phrase from Mark. I could say what he's saying to Jesus, "My little daughter lies at the point of death, dying," or "at the point of death and dying," or "My little daughter is dying." No,